A grocery store in California displayed 24 varieties of jam on a tasting table. Shoppers stopped, sampled, admired the variety. 6% bought a jar. The next week, researchers replaced the display with just 6 varieties. 30% bought a jar. 5 times more purchases. Same store. Same shoppers. Same jam. The only variable that changed was the number of options available. That study, conducted by Dr. Sheena Iyengar at Columbia University and published in the year 2000, has been cited over 7,000 times and revealed something your daily life proves every morning. More choices don't make you decisive, they paralyze you. And you are drowning in choices right now. What to wear from a closet stuffed with clothes you forgot you owned. What to eat from a delivery app offering 400 restaurants. What to watch from a streaming library deeper than any human could exhaust in a lifetime. What to reply from a notification stack that regenerates faster than you can clear it. By the time you've made breakfast, you've already burned through dozens of decisions, each one invisible. Each one silently draining the same cognitive reserve you'll need later, when the decisions actually matter. And by afternoon, the account is empty. You choose the easy meal instead of the healthy one. You avoid the hard conversation because evaluating the words feels exhausting. You postpone the important email because constructing the right sentence requires energy you no longer have. You're not lazy, you're bankrupt, decision bankrupt. And nobody told you the spending started the moment you opened your eyes. But there's a civilization that structured daily life around protecting this exact resource thousands of years before neuroscience could name it. In ancient China, Confucius taught his students to examine their conduct 3 times daily. Lao Tzu built an entire philosophy around reducing the unnecessary. Chinese tea masters turned a single cup of tea into a practice of undivided attention. These weren't rituals for their own sake. They were technologies for preserving the mind's sharpest instrument, the ability to choose well. Today, 7 of those technologies. Each one takes minutes. Each one costs nothing. And each one targets a specific leak in your decision-making system that modern life ripped wide open. Subscribe to Quiet Mandate if you haven't, and tell me in the comments what's the most pointless decision you make every single day that quietly drains you. That answer is the first leak. Let's begin. The invisible tax on every thought you have. Your prefrontal cortex, the region behind your forehead responsible for planning, reasoning, and choosing between competing options, operates on a budget. Not a metaphorical budget, a measurable, depletable one. Dr. Roy Baumeister, one of the most cited social psychologists alive, introduced the ego depletion model in 1998 through a now famous experiment. Subjects who were forced to resist eating chocolate and eat radishes instead subsequently gave up faster on an unsolvable puzzle than subjects who weren't asked to resist anything. The act of making a single self-controlled decision depleted a resource that was then unavailable for the next task. Baumeister's 2024 update to the theory, published in Current Opinion in Psychology and cited over 130 times within its first year, reaffirmed the core finding. Self-regulation draws on a limited energy resource. When the resource depletes, subsequent decisions degrade. Every trivial decision you make, what to wear, which route to take, what to eat for lunch, whether to reply now or later, withdraws from the same account you'll need for career choices, relationship conversations, financial planning, and creative problem solving. The account doesn't discriminate between important and unimportant. $1 spent is $1 spent whether it bought medicine or chewing gum. The Chinese habits you're about to learn don't add decision-making power. They eliminate decision-making waste. They seal the leaks so the reservoir stays full for the moments that actually require your sharpest thinking. The difference isn't more brain power, it's less brain drainage. Ding Shi, the fixed hours. In the Tang dynasty, the imperial court operated on Shi Chen, 12 two-hour divisions of the day, each assigned specific activities. Morning hours for governance, midday for meals, afternoon for study, evening for reflection. Not because flexibility was impossible, because eliminating the decision of when to do what freed the mind for the substance of what was being done. Ding Shi means fixed time. The habit is brutally simple. Assign your 5 most recurring daily activities to fixed time slots and never renegotiate them. Wake time, meal times, work start, exercise window, sleep time. These are no longer decisions, they are architecture. The cognitive savings are immediate. Research from the University of Waterloo published in 2022 in the Journal of Experimental Psychology confirmed that habitual behaviors performed at consistent times bypass the deliberation circuits of the prefrontal cortex entirely, routing instead through the basal ganglia, the brain's autopilot region. Zero decision cost, zero depletion. You're not losing flexibility. You're purchasing clarity. When the 5 recurring activities are locked, your prefrontal cortex isn't spending its morning budget on when to eat or whether to exercise. It's fully loaded when the complex, unpredictable decisions arrive. The ones no schedule can anticipate. The ones that actually shape your life. Start this week. Fix 5 times. Write them down. Obey them for 14 days without exception. By day 15, they won't feel like constraints. They'll feel like the structure that makes everything else possible. Qingzhuo, the morning clear surface. In the Song dynasty, scholar officials began each day by clearing their writing desk to a state of bare wood, before placing only the tools needed for the first task. Inkstone, brush, paper, nothing else visible. This wasn't aesthetic preference, it was cognitive warfare against distraction. Princeton University's Neuroscience Institute published findings demonstrating that visual clutter competes for representational space in the visual cortex, reducing the brain's ability to focus and process relevant information. Multiple stimuli in your peripheral vision create low-level attentional conflict that your prefrontal cortex must continuously suppress. This suppression costs energy. The same energy you need for decisions. Qingzhuo means clear desk. Every morning, before your first task, clear your workspace to 0. Remove everything. Then place back only what the first task requires. When that task is complete, clear again. Place back only what the next task needs. Each clearance is a 3-minute investment that eliminates hours of background cognitive drain. The effect compounds silently. By the 3rd day, you'll notice decisions arriving faster. Not because you're thinking harder, because the noise competing with your thinking has been physically removed from your visual field. Yiko Cha, the single cup pause. Chinese tea culture spans millennia, and at its core sits a principle that looks like leisure but functions as precision engineering for the mind. Gongfu cha, the traditional method of preparing tea, involves heating water to a specific temperature, pouring it over leaves in a small vessel, waiting a precise number of seconds, and pouring the liquor into a cup barely larger than a thimble. Then you drink, slowly, completely, before repeating the process. The entire ritual takes 3 to 4 minutes and produces 1 tiny cup. And during those minutes, the mind is engaged in exactly one task: making tea. Not making tea while checking email. Not making tea while checking email. Not making tea while checking email. Just tea. Yiko cha means one mouth of tea. The habit isn't about tea specifically. It's about inserting a single-task micro-ritual between the segments of your day. Between the morning block and the midday block. Between lunch and the afternoon push. Between work and evening. A 3-minute activity performed with total, undivided, almost ceremonial attention. A 2023 study published in Frontiers in Psychology by Wang and colleagues confirmed that calligraphy and tea ceremony type activities requiring sustained focused attention show measurable improvements in cognitive control and reductions in anxiety markers. The mechanism is simple. Focused single-tasking, even briefly, resets the prefrontal cortex the way a short nap resets physical fatigue. You return to the next decision block with a refreshed instrument, not a depleted one. Your version doesn't require a gong fu tea set. Make 1 cup of anything. Slowly, deliberately. Watching the water pour, feeling the warmth in your hands, tasting with full attention. 3 minutes, then return to your day. The decisions waiting for you on the other side of that cup will arrive cleaner than the ones before it. San Xing. The 3 examinations. In the Analects, Confucius's disciple Zhengzhu declared, "I examine myself 3 times every day. Have I been true to others in my dealings? Have I been sincere with my friends? Have I practiced what I have been taught?" This wasn't abstract philosophy. It was a daily decision quality audit performed at the most granular level. San Xing means 3 examinations. The habit is a 2-minute evening review. Not journaling, not gratitude listing. 3 specific questions about 3 specific decisions you made that day. Question 1. What decision did I make today that I'm satisfied with and why? This identifies your decision-making patterns at their strongest, training your brain to recognize and repeat high-quality choice architecture. Question 2. What decision did I avoid or delay, and what was I actually afraid of? This surfaces the emotional interference that corrupts rational choice. Dr. Antonio Damasio's somatic marker hypothesis, developed through decades of research at the University of Southern California, established that emotions physically influence decision-making through bodily sensations. Identifying the fear behind avoidance allows you to separate emotional noise from legitimate caution. Question 3. What decision tomorrow needs the clearest version of my mind? This is pre-allocation. You're telling your prefrontal cortex where to direct its best resources before the day scatters them across trivialities. 2 minutes, 3 questions, repeated nightly. Within a month, your decision patterns become visible to you in a way they never were before. And visibility is the prerequisite to improvement. Here's what I want from you right now. Think about yesterday. What's one decision you avoided because it felt heavy, not because it was actually complicated? Drop it in the comments, because naming the avoidance is the first San Xing of your life. Jianchu, the elimination sweep. Lao Tzu wrote in chapter 48 of the Tao Te Ching, "In pursuit of learning, every day something is acquired. In pursuit of the Tao, every day something is dropped." The Chinese minimalist tradition didn't remove objects for aesthetic reasons. It removed objects to remove the invisible decisions those objects demanded. Jianchu means reduce and eliminate. The habit is a weekly 10-minute sweep through one area of your life: physical space, digital space, commitments, or subscriptions, with a single question applied to everything you encounter. Does this actively serve a decision I need to make this month? If the answer is no, it goes. Every object you own asks your brain a quiet question. Keep me or discard me? Use me or store me? Maintain me or forget me? Research published in the Journal of Environmental Psychology confirmed that the cumulative cognitive cost of these micro-questions is significant and continuous. You don't consciously hear them. Your prefrontal cortex processes them regardless. 10 minutes, one area, weekly. The gradual reduction doesn't strip your life bare. It strips your mind bare. And a bare mind is a sharp mind. Juomo. The deliberate friction. This habit contradicts every productivity hack you've ever read. Chinese jade carvers spent months on a single piece, not because the material was difficult, but because the slowness itself was the skill. Juomo means to carve and polish. Applied to decisions, it means deliberately slowing down the choices that matter rather than optimizing for speed. Modern culture worships fast decisions, snap judgments, quick pivots, rapid iteration. But Baumeister's research on ego depletion reveals a critical nuance. Depleted decision-makers don't just make worse decisions, they make faster ones. Speed becomes a symptom of exhaustion, not efficiency. When your cognitive reserves are low, your brain shortcuts to the easiest option, not the best one. Juomo is the counterweight. For any decision that will affect you for longer than 1 week, institute a mandatory 24-hour delay. Write down the options. Walk away. Return the next day and choose. The delay isn't procrastination. It's allowing your subconscious pattern recognition systems, what Damasio's research calls somatic markers, time to process variables your conscious mind hasn't registered yet. The body knows before the mind does. A tightening in the stomach, a lightness in the chest, a subtle resistance or subtle ease. These signals need time to surface. Instant decisions bury them under urgency. The 24-hour delay uncovers them. Lao Tzu, the protected first hour. The final habit is the one that makes all 6 above it function at maximum capacity. In traditional Chinese households, the first hour of the day, Chen Shu, the period from 7 to 9 in the morning, was considered the hour of the dragon, the hour when qi was freshest and the mind was at its most penetrating. No trivial activity was permitted during this window. Modern neuroscience confirms the principle. Cortisol follows a circadian rhythm, peaking approximately 30 to 45 minutes after waking, in what researchers call the cortisol awakening response. This peak isn't stress. It's your brain's ignition sequence, flooding the prefrontal cortex with alertness and readiness. This is when your decision-making organ is at maximum capacity. And what do you do with this hour? You check your phone. You scroll notifications. You respond to messages that could wait until noon. You spend your sharpest cognitive currency on other people's priorities. Lao Tzu means early rising, but the habit isn't about waking earlier. It's about protecting what happens after you wake. For the first 60 minutes, no phone, no email, no social media, no input from the external world. This hour belongs to your highest priority decision or task. The one that requires your clearest judgment. The one you've been postponing because it feels hard. It feels hard because you've been attempting it at 3 p.m. with a depleted prefrontal cortex. Attempted at 7 a.m. with full cortisol support, with a cleared desk, with a fixed schedule, removing all preliminary decisions. The hard thing becomes simply a thing, and you move through it with a precision that will feel unfamiliar. Because it is unfamiliar. You've never given your best hour to your best decision. You've been giving it away for free to an algorithm that doesn't care whether you succeed. 7 habits. Ding Shu locks your schedule so your brain stops wasting power on when. Qingzuo clears your visual field so your cortex stops fighting noise. Yiko Cha resets your focus between decision blocks. Sanxing audits your choices so patterns become visible. Jianchu eliminates the silent questions your possessions ask. Zhuomo slows the important decisions so your body's intelligence can surface. And Lao Tzu protects the hour when your deciding mind is at its most formidable. Combined daily investment. Roughly 35 minutes of deliberate practice woven through a day that was already happening. No apps, no courses, no supplements. Just 7 micro-adjustments to how you move through choices, drawn from a civilization that spent millennia refining the art of the deliberate life. That jam study at the beginning? The shoppers who faced 6 options didn't just buy more, they reported higher satisfaction with what they chose. Fewer options, better decisions, more contentment. Lao Tzu wrote it 3,000 words into the most enduring philosophical text in Eastern history. The sage desires no desire. Not emptiness, freedom. Freedom from the tyranny of endless options that masquerades as privilege. Your decisions aren't poor because your mind is weak. They're poor because your mind is buried. Buried under notifications, options, visual noise, unexamined patterns, and an unprotected morning that gives your sharpest hour to your least important inputs. Unbury it. 7 habits, starting tonight. If this changed how you think about the invisible cost of every small choice, subscribe to Quiet Mandate and hit the bell. And tell me, which of the 7 are you installing first? Dingxi, Qingzhuo, Yiko-cha, Sanxing, Jianchu, Zhuomo, or Zhaoqi? Name it below, because a decision named is a decision half made. The sharpening begins now.